Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and I have a special guest today. This is my friend Guerry Grune. He is from Third Rock Essentials, and he is the person who I am fortunate enough to have helped me formulate our new products, the zinc citrate and the vitamin D3 plus K2. So I wanted to jump on a video with him because he is a person who has a lot of experience. He has a lot of know-how, and this is my first foray into vitamins and minerals. You know, I can talk about herbs all day long, but I wanted to bring Guerry on because he can explain it and the way we formulated these in a way that will make sense to you. So Guerry, before we get started on the zinc and the D supplement, I want you to just tell everybody a little bit about you. What makes you qualified to talk about this?
Thanks, Jane. I guess the thing that makes me qualified is I do have a degree in chemistry, an undergraduate degree from a long time ago, and a master's and a PhD in chemical engineering. And I got involved in personal care products because I surf, and I had two young guys that got melanoma at age 20 or so. And both of them at different times were told to stop surfing, and they by their dermatologists, or otherwise they'd get melanoma again. So they stopped surfing. My industrial career is product development, and that started with Celanese, IBM, and then worked for 3 more Global 500 companies, and started Third Rock Sunblock, which became Third Rock Essentials about 15 years ago, really as a hobby. That's now a business. And that's how you and I met, because I was interested in helping myself out with some supplements and herbal remedies. And that's how I came across Lamation. And that's how you and I met, because I'm still a COVID long hauler after about 1.5 years of fighting off all kinds of symptoms. So I guess that makes me qualified to be able to develop new products and also develop things that hopefully are going to be helpful and helpful for everybody who's watching this video and who's buying your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely does. And honestly, just from all the conversations we've had, I think you have a deep sense of purpose as far as bringing out things that help human longevity, and you care about sourcing as much as I do.
Yeah.
And you know, just the time when you actually came to Salt Lake last year and we sat down and we had lunch, it was just like, okay, this is a person who is like, I'm looking in the mirror, like this person cares about all the things I care about, and bringing out good products that have high quality, that are sourced sustainably, and with just everything about it, you know. And what I really love about these 2 supplements we're going to talk about is there's some uniqueness to them. I love that they're liquids. And let's first talk about the zinc citrate, because I want to make this a fairly short video so people don't click on it, because you and I know we could talk for like an hour. And I wouldn't want people to go, oh, this is an hour long, I'll watch that later, I don't have time. So
right. Well, you brought up a point though that I can't let go by. I think they are unique, and I actually do patent work for a living. I'm a registered patent agent also. So yeah. I meet a lot of really smart people who do things that are very, very innovative. And I think these are innovative products, no question.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like, in a way, like so lucky to have connected with you, because I'm so picky about what I put into my line, because I only want to do things that I would not only take myself, but the people in my family, my kids, my grandkids, my siblings. I wouldn't want to do anything that I would not give to my own family members. So that's why I think it's really amazing. Just the background, the genuineness that you have, like you are a true kindred spirit for sure, Guerry. So
thank you. I feel the same way. And I agree with you. If you're not going to give it to your family and friends, then you shouldn't be making it.
You shouldn't be giving it to anyone, because at the end of the day, we're all one human family.
Right.
We're all connected. We're all the same. So I think that is probably I love that we brought this up, because to me, we need to remember that, you know, especially in the times we're in, we are one connected humanity, and what serves another person is going to ripple out and serve, you know, we help other people get healthy, that ripples out. It's just so beautiful, really.
Right. It's the right way to be.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk first about the zinc.
Sure.
The zinc, okay, the question we've been getting already is why zinc citrate? So
Mhm.
can you tell me, just explain it to me the way I was showing you this before we started recording. We talked the other day and I wrote down 2 pages of notes and then I'm like, okay, Gary, I need to get you on a video to help me explain this because I am understanding this,
Sure.
but I don't know if I can explain it. So I'm just going to
Sure.
let you
Sure.
go.
Well, so zinc, as you know, is extremely important, especially for men's health, especially for prostate health. And I actually went through a bout of prostatitis issues early in my life, in my early 20s. And I found a kinesiologist chiropractor who gave me supplements that I still take, which are zinc tablets. But you and I talked about this, and along the way, I have figured out how to chelate many different metal oxides. Specifically, what we developed is silver oxide, and I chelate silver oxide with citric acid. Now, a lot of people don't know about citric acid. It's not ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid is vitamin C, and when you initially hear citric acid, you think, oh, from grapefruits, oranges, limes, lemons, whatever. It's not usually. It's usually actually from corn. We actually get our citric acid from non-GMO corn. But honestly, citric acid is processed so much from the corn that it's so much removed from the corn. I don't know that it really matters if it's GMO or non-GMO, but that's the citric acid we use. And the reason for taking zinc and chelating it is because zinc oxide is a metal oxide. It is an inorganic substance. It's a salt. And the issue with that is you can take pure zinc as a supplement, but it's really not going to do much for you. It's not bioactive. It's not bioavailable. So when you go to the supplement store, whatever you, Whole Foods or wherever supplements you buy, Vitamin Shop, wherever you go to get your supplements, if those supplements are not somehow made to be bioactive or bioabsorbable or bioavailable, you're sort of not really getting the benefit that they're meant to give you. So in the case of zinc, many companies sell many chelated forms of zinc. And we decided that since we had some experience, a lot of experience with chelating silver oxide with citric acid, that we probably could do the same thing with zinc. And sure enough, we can, and we did. And as you know, it changes. First of all, it's a soluble form. So what we actually have made and what you're going to be selling is the liquid form. And I believe that a liquid form of a supplement is probably at least 10 to 1,000 times more effective than a solid form of the same supplement. Why? Because we're more than 80% water. We're like, we're like bags of, I call it sacks of water running around the planet. Because you can't go 2 or 3 days without water. You can go a long time without food. Gandhi did, but he still drank. He still drank a lot of water every day. So the point being that water soluble substances are very available and very easily digested and used by our bodies.
Right.
And so by taking the zinc oxide, which is a metal oxide, it's a salt, and it's in its solid form, and solubilizing that and then chelating it with citric acid, we make zinc citrate.
So chelating means removing, maybe explain that.
Sure. Well, chelation is really the chelation, as if you look it up in the dictionary, whatever, it's a mild reaction. So we're basically taking a molecule, an inorganic molecule, and we're attaching an organic molecule to it.
Right.
And so taking that inorganic molecule and connecting it with an organic molecule, we now all of a sudden have made it into a bioactive, bioavailable substance. Whereas before it would not be bioactive, it would not be bioavailable. Yeah. And there are other solid forms of zinc that are chelated, but they're usually not soluble in water per se. They might be, but in most cases they're not. Or if they are, they solubilize slowly. So our whole way of doing the zinc citrate, making it, is completely in water. So we
Right.
solubilize the zinc oxide in water, and then we solubilize the citric acid in water, and then we mix them together. And that gives us a fully reacted zinc citrate compound.
Yeah, which is nice, the fact that you don't need very much it's a trace mineral. You don't need a lot. It's an essential nutrient, but you don't need very much of it. So
It's true. And it
yeah,
turns out that, zinc deficiencies can lead to unhealthy consequences, specifically prostate for men, but also now with, what's been going on with the pandemic,
yeah,
it's an issue that people should be paying more attention to, because uh, zinc is very, very important for overall health in terms of keeping the cells healthy and active. And
yeah.
in the case of zinc citrate, because we use citrate, citric acid is part of the Krebs cycle, Krebs cycle. And I'm not a biologist, but I know enough to know about the Krebs cycle being vitally important to keep cells healthy and to get cells to do what they're supposed to do. And in some cases, there's actually some very good information about the fact that we have trillions of cells in our body, but that every cell has a purpose, whether it be a organ cell like liver, heart, kidney, lung, or whether it be a skin cell or eye cell, whatever. And some cells maybe are supposed to die, some are supposed to replicate, and some are just supposed to live a long time. Well, with citric acid, with the Krebs cycle, that gives energy to the cell. So the fact that it's citrate means it's going to get right into the Krebs cycle, and it'll carry the zinc along with it. And that means that your cells, many, many thousands, millions, and hopefully even trillions of cells, will get the benefit of taking the liquid form of the zinc oxide, which is zinc citrate that we make.
Oh, I love that. That's so perfect. So before we move on to the D3 and the K2, I just want to remind people, if you have further questions, don't hesitate to put a comment below this video. And if there's a question that you have that I can't answer, I'll reach out to Guerry and get his answer, and I'll respond. Because I think that hopefully, I mean, to me, that makes perfect sense. It was explained, really beautifully. Zinc is essential to human health, and it's not something you can get. You can get it in certain foods, but there's a lot of foods that people don't eat that they're in. So, okay, so let's talk about vitamin D3 plus vitamin K2. Now, we all know that vitamin D is technically not a vitamin. It's a steroid hormone that your body produces when your skin gets exposed to sunlight. And this can be tricky depending on a lot of different factors. So maybe I'm going to do the same thing I did with you explaining the zinc. I'm going to let you go for it, because you just have a beautiful way of describing it. And I think that that's going to be the most beneficial way to get the information, for sure.
Thanks, Jane. I would say, first of all, you're correct about the vitamin D.
Yeah.
And there are several forms of vitamin D.
Yes.
And it turns out that the best way for me personally to receive vitamin D is sunlight.
Right.
I live in Virginia Beach now. We have sunlight a lot, which is great. I can get out most of the year, at least 9-10 months of the year. I can be outside as a lot and get, direct sunlight, and literally 20 minutes of sunlight. If your body is doing its job, that's enough to get essentially all the vitamin D you need for the day.
Right. You're right.
However, we're not all that lucky to live near the beach or get a lot of sun, because we work inside a lot. But if we don't, then supplementation with vitamin D is something that a lot of doctors are now prescribing, maybe at least possibly over prescribing. It does have apparently an effect on mood and an effect on overall health. And then the question is, well, what vitamin D supplement should I take?
Right.
And the answer to that question, if you look at the white papers, you go to PubMed or you go to any of the journal articles that you can read about this. And I actually learned this at one of my Mindshare conferences from a from a practicing dentist, actually, who told me he was concerned about using my sunscreen because he was worried he wasn't going to get enough vitamin D. And I
Oh,
said, well, I don't know. You'd have to dip coat yourself in a vat of sunscreen and not have any part of your body exposed, because you get a lot of sun right through your hair. Of course, I think he was balding, so I think he needed it on his head more than he thought he did. But anyway, that's another story. But if your skin is thin, obviously you're susceptible to potentially melanoma skin cancer, as we talked about earlier. But also the sun you probably don't even need 20 minutes to get all the vitamin D. But getting back to the supplementation, what kind of vitamin D supplement should you take? Well, it's identical to the zinc citrate we make. A water soluble version is always going to be better. The
right.
question is, well, what form of D? And the answer is, if you use D3 and you use K2 as the carrier for D3, you'll have a substance which is much more bioavailable and bioactive that your body can absorb more readily. And of course, if you do that in a liquid form, as we talked about, we're just sacks of water running about the planet. We're like 80% water. So if you're going to consume something that you want to efficiently spread throughout the cells, again, just like with the zinc citrate, which is a liquid form, the D3K2 is a liquid form. Now, we did a little bit more than just D3K2. We, based on our conversation, actually, Jane, back last fall, I think that's when you said to me, well, what if you could make a chelated form of D3K2? And I said, well, never done that before,
Yeah.
but I think it could be done. And basically, we took the D3 and we chelated it, again, mild reaction, with citric acid, and we made a D3 citrate, which, as you mentioned, D3 is not really a vitamin per se. It's a steroidal substance, which is a hormonal substance, which is why I think it's very important not to overdose on it.
Yeah.
Because again, it is a synthetic form. It's not coming from your skin through sunlight.
Right.
So it's doing something a little different, which is supplementation. And of course, in the wintertime, in places like where you live in Utah and Minnesota and further north and, Scandinavia, people don't get a lot of sunlight.
Right.
And I'm sure their D3 levels or their D levels are low. Well, why D3K2? Well, K2 is a vitamin. It is also very essential, but in very, very small, low levels or low concentrations.
Yeah.
You don't want to add too much K2 to your regimen, your daily regimen. But doctors are prescribing high concentrations or high dosages of D, which I personally believe is overdoing it. But that's, of course, up to you and your doctor and what you think you'll need.
Well,
But
and
good news-
what
Go ahead,
that
sorry.
kind of, just let me insert here. This is where it's really important. We suggest on the supplement that you help formulate, Gary, that 4,000 IUs of the D3 per day. And if you feel like you need more, you should go to your doctor and get a test. It's a very simple blood test to see what vitamin D levels you might need. So if you do need more, don't just guess it. Like, be smart, use your intellect and your common sense, and go get your levels tested. If you're not sure, or if you don't want to do that, then please use your human common sense, is what I would say.
Right.
Yes.
And I'll add to that, my own human experience is that, as I mentioned, I think I'm a long hauler with COVID. And I immediately started taking D as a supplement in addition, because I never was taking D supplements. I never felt like I need them. I'm an outdoors person. I'm outside a lot, but I started taking it and I didn't really see a benefit from it, even when it was D3K2 in solid form. But I did see a benefit in the D3K2 when I chelated with citric acid. And I
That's
really
awesome.
felt like that made a big difference, almost within a day or so.
No,
But
that's
again,
great.
you're absolutely right. I wouldn't overdose with it.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you watch your levels and you get your blood tested. I think that's 100% what anyone should do. And it's great advice.
Yeah, I think people need to just use that piece of them that we know we have, but I think as modern humans, we think that if a little bit is going to do us well, that a whole lot is going to do us better. And that is especially not the case with these two supplements. So I would just say, just use your common sense. You only need a little bit, you only need trace amounts,
Right.
and the benefits can be huge. So the last thing I kind of want to bring up about the D3 and the K2 is the sourcing. So
Yes. Yeah.
maybe explain about where our D3 comes, because so far this has been the most common question that we've had, is where do you get your D3? Because
Right.
there are animal sources for it,
Yep.
and there are other sources. So explain.
Yeah, so vitamin D, not necessarily D3, but vitamin D overall, and D3 is one of them, D1, D2, D3, comes normally from a production of lanolin, which comes from sheep's wool. So lanolin is not a bad thing, but it's animal derived. Our product, we source the D3 from a company that uses it and makes it from lichens. If you don't know what lichens are, I guess the best way to describe it is a picture of a bark on a tree with some sort of moss growing on it. That's what lichens are, and it's a vegan source material. So we don't get it from sheep's wool, which is really lanolin, which lanolin actually is a great product, but we don't get it from that. So again, it comes from a fermented or a process which basically processes lichens, and that's how the D3 is delivered.
Is sourced, yeah.
Is sourced and delivered from in a powdered form.
Yeah.
So it starts out for us as a solid, but we solubilize it in water.
Right. And then the K2 is the one that's the fermented process, right?
That's from most likely fermented soy, and it's a bacterial production, which means it's a microbial fermentation where the bugs literally are fed long chain sugars. Those long chain sugars feed the bugs, and then the excrement from the bugs is actually the vitamin K2. That's how that's sourced. And again, it's a non-GMO product, it's vegan, and it's a molecule that is a Naphtho Quinone. And we talked about that a little bit earlier. Naphtho Quinone, so naphtha is what mothballs are made of. Quinones have historically been known as medicines to wipe out fungus and bacteria in humans and horses. Actually, quinones have been used a lot to treat horses that have some kind of viral or bacterial infection. So the combination of that is the molecule K2, and it is really the carrier for D3. K2 is a very small molecule, and it probably penetrates the cell even faster than D3 does. So that combination, we took we chelated the D3 with citric acid. So now again, can get into the Krebs cycle, and the K2 is there as well to really boost the ability for the D to do what it's supposed to do, which is essentially keep the cells healthy, elevate your mood, and also give you protection against viruses and bacterial infections. That's, I think, why there's been a lot of studies since the pandemic, and you can go online and see these studies. They're pretty convincing about the use of vitamin D against the COVID virus. There is really a lot of evidence that D is very, very beneficial for anybody who got it or anybody who wants to be prevented from getting it in the first place.
Yeah, well, and I think that's really what it's all about is having the tools when you get sick, but also staying constantly in prevention mode, because that's something that I continually preach to people is it's always easier to prevent than to try and cure. And the thing is, we are susceptible to getting sick. It's the human way. I was one of the very first people to get COVID. I got it in February of 2020,
Wow.
Before everything happened and shut down. And I recovered. I recovered beautifully. I still have very strong, robust antibodies for that. But I'm also a person who consistently supplements, not just with the herbs and the stuff that I do, but I've always been a zinc. I take zinc, and I've always taken a D3 supplement. Sometimes it'll have K2, but I'm super excited about these liquid versions because I really like your comparison of, or just the fact that we are a certain percentage, mostly water. And if you have something that can carry a liquid into the liquid that is us, you're going to have a lot more absorbability. You're going to have, carrying it into the cells where it's needed. And it just makes so much more sense. Now, there are sometimes things that work better in the human body when they go through the digestive process.
True.
But with these two things in particular, the liquid form is really beautiful. So just like what we talked about with the zinc, if you have any further questions, comments, concerns, or whatever, put a comment below this video and I will answer it. If I don't know the answer, I'll reach out to Guerry and get the answer. But Guerry, I want to thank you so much for taking time to, spread this information and also share like the crazy good knowledge you have. I've been so grateful ever since I met you. I think that, like I said at the beginning, when you see, you recognize your tribe almost right away. And you and I had an instant connection, like, okay, yes, I see you, you see me. It was like, it's easy to fall into conversation with someone who has a similar path, and we know why we're here, and it's a beautiful thing. So I don't know, do you have any final thoughts about what we're talking about that maybe you can share with everyone?
Well, I think you've really summed it up great, Jane. I would add that the issue regarding solubility and the fact that these are in liquid form and that they will do the job more effectively, and including even if you need this in your digestive tract, it's going to get there eventually. And I think one of the big health concerns that I've seen over the many years on the planet now is that there are a lot of folks that run around this planet dehydrated.
Yeah, oh, for
And
sure.
it really does affect your health. I try to make sure that I don't even start the day until I get about a half a gallon of water in me.
Yeah,
I didn't
you're
used
just
to
like
be,
me.
and I didn't used to be that way. But long time ago, probably 50 years ago now, I met a gentleman who was my age then. And he told me, he says, drinking water, pretty important. And of course, the water quality you drink is important. Just so everybody knows, we use distilled water to make these products.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and basically distilled water and heat, and then the raw materials we talked about, sourcing those. So I think that hopefully will help people understand this is very pure and there are no toxic substances, no additives, no preservatives. This is the real deal in liquid form, and that's all you're getting.
Yeah, which I love. So also I want to encourage you guys, if you want to check out Guerry's thirdrockessentials.com,
Right.
and you make a brilliant sunscreen, which is what is all I use now. And I love it because it's really actually good for your skin, because what I've always done in the summer, usually the past 20 years or 25 years since I stopped using regular sunscreen, is I will put on long sleeve. If it's even in the heat of the summer, if I'm out and I'm out hiking or whatever, I will make sure that I have some long sleeve clothes and I'll have a hat, because I've never wanted to put on those commercial sunscreens. And I've tried different natural ones over the years, but I truly love yours. So if you guys want to connect in with Guerry and what he does, I would highly recommend it. He has a beautiful company and he has a lot of really amazing products. So check him out. I'll put a link below this video where you can actually just click on it and can go right to Guerry's website. But Guerry, thank you so much.
Thanks for that, Jane. Thanks for the promo. I appreciate it.
Of course,
And,
of
yeah,
course.
if it wasn't for the sunscreen, I would have never learned how to chelate anything. We actually chelate our zinc in the sunscreen with L-arginine.
Seriously, you guys, you need to check out his sunscreen. It's
different.
Awesome. It's awesome. We actually talked at one point about maybe private labeling the sunscreen, but I think you just need to go to Guerry's website and get his sunscreen.
Thank you.
At least that's my suggestion. So thank you again, Guerry. I think you're amazing. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know if you have questions and comments, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.